this video now is Applied 201, and we talked about the early part of the year about valid business reasons to build your dream sheet and who to reach out to and networking. And in Admiral, we've also talked about letter to the board, and then the ranking process with confidence factors are the same. Let's jump now into slating, because that is completely unique to the Applied board and the reserve world.
Right. So, and again, with the new software program, you know, kudos to the Reserve Force Command
They made a big investment.
N6 stand. Huge investment, huge improvement. This software is just incredible. The development process, I could talk all day about that in itself, but if we get to slating, so the confidence factors are assigned, we know how long, what your tenure in command is, we know what your tenure in grade is, we know everything about you, but we don't see your record now. So what we're looking at now.
And we don't see your letter to the board.
We do not see your letter to the board.
That has gone away.
So those comments on the apply process come into play. Listing NOBCs, if the billet requires a resume, making sure you have the proper resume in the proper format and all the fields included in there. So it's like closing a door, walking into a new room, and leaving the records behind and going now to your apply record, which is basically a lot of it's manually input from the individual. A couple improvements we're working on are like calculating command time and all those other factors.
Sure.
But now when we're looking at slating, like you said, that senior 06 with a 100 or the senior 05 with a 100, depending on which board your panel you're sitting on, is going to go first. And you're going to look at his dream sheet, and he's got job number 1, and he's fully qualified, and it looks good. The only thing we're going to do now is that basically our theory is that's his to lose. We look at the next closest record. Let's say it's 100 also. So we look, and you're kind of judging to see who is the most qualified out of those two people.
In the language we use, best and fully qualified.
Best and
right?
fully qualified, yep.
And then that's where we'll take a look at designator match.
Yep.
Is it an exact, it has to be a 1315,
Right,
or it has to be a 1050? Well, 1050 can be any URL designator.
Right.
We'll look at OSO comments.
OSO comments are huge.
Huge.
Absolutely huge.
OSOs can play a huge role here in who they get and assigned orders to based on, now we also have seen OSO comments that are unrealistic. You know, must be AJPME qualified, or some things that aren't really, you know, hopefully they'll get cleaned up each year. But
and the RFAS code will pick that out. So the billet descriptions that you've done your homework on and you reviewed before you completed your dream sheet come into play. So I'm an 1115. I'm not going to apply for 1135 billet that's got an AA RFAS code because I want a seal in that billet. Or I'm not going to apply to be a squadron, an aviation squadron CO, because they need to have, you know, an aviator in there. So you need to look at those and need to play. Because if you put it on, well, actually the system won't allow you to do it anymore. It excludes people from even viewing some of those comments. So the OSOs, though, they are the ones that will write the requirement for the designator and the RFAS code. So those comments, the above-the-line comments, are absolutely critical on the billet description.
And we'll talk about, so when we're in the tank, we use the same tank for slating that we use for the briefing, and the computer program that was designed and it enables us to do that.
Right.
The comments are really critical, because I tell people, and we could talk about this if you would, comments should be written to your maybe first 5 or 6 choices, because, you know, hey, I have joint experience, I want to go to a joint command, or I have, because again, your record is no longer up on the screen, and we're trying to make sure that, you know, and that's your chance to tell us, or I'll go anywhere in the world, I'll take any command billet, you know, that kind of, you know, stuff. I have a security clearance.
Right.
We'd only see it if it was in your comments, right? Top secret.
But we're also, the software's updated that, so yeah.
So we can tell those things.
Right, and again, the billet description is so critical because it should reflect what the billet requirements for that supported command are. So as you read those billet requirements, you know, on the billet description, and then you look at the OSO comments, you look at the CO comments, you're like, hey, I'm a good fit, I think this is right. Again, before the board, hopefully you've reached out and looked at somebody, because now all we have, again, we'll say it again, we don't have access to your record. We can't go back and look at a fit rep and say, oh, okay, you were awarded to certain NOBC. There's a section for it in your notes. Let's say you're an 05 and you're asking for another command, and you've already had 2 commands. but one of the units got disestablished. Those comments in there, help do the calculation. If we get to the point where the command calculator is already, automatically figured out, that's better. But those things make it, the information being clear and concise and precise, make it easier to get slated into that bill that you put on your dream sheet.
And the mileage calculator is important too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you say in your comments, I'll travel 250 miles, but you click the 100-mile button,
Absolutely.
we're only going to give you billets inside of 100 miles, even
Right.
though you might have said it. We're not going to guess for you.
Right.
What buttons did you click? And you really got to be paying attention
Yeah.
to that, because that'll come up in the slating process.
And actually, the software enhancement automatically calculates that. So if you click 100 miles, you're not even going to appear eligible for a billet that could be 106 miles away from your home. So you need to pay attention to that. If you live in Charlotte, North Carolina, take 100 miles on a map and see which NOSCs fall into that. And those are your billets. So maybe it's not 100, maybe it's 200. Well, that's a long drive. Is it worth getting a billet possibly in Norfolk?
So one thing we like to say is that call it a dream sheet for a reason.
Right.
If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get
Right.
it.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And isn't that, dream big?
Dream big and don't deselect yourself. I said that at the onset. Oh, this is a great unit, I'd love to have it, but I'm a junior 05, I'm not going to get a CO job. If your confidence factor is 100, you are competing for that job. So if it's a job you'd like to have, or you'd like to say, hey, I can do this job, I think I can do this job, put it on your dream sheet. And if the board agrees with you, you're going to get that billet. But if you don't put it on your dream sheet, you've just taken yourself out of play, and you could be surprised when you see somebody that gets that billet and you think, I could have done a better job. Again, those are your opinions, but.
We talk about commands important, and you've told me, Ted, command. That's the holy grail.
Right.
However, there are times in people's careers that they're not ready for command. Either they don't have the time to devote to it, they have new children, or they have a big new job, or they're in law. We talk a little bit about asking for command and when should I ask for it, and because apply is where we give out commands.
Right. It's got to be that balance again: civilian job, family, and reserve job. And if you have the wherewithal to take command, take command. Now, not all commands are equal, and this is a really touchy point. So there's command of an aviation squadron. They've got hardware, they've got airplanes, they're flying, they're sending detachments all around the world. Yep. There's the Coastal Riverine, there's the Navy Expeditionary, logistics. Those are big commands. They take a lot of responsibilities, and they have a separate command screening process to go along with them. But some of those are still slated in apply. Then there are some CO jobs that are very small units that don't have the same scope of responsibility. So not all commands are created equal. So you need to do your homework and find out what that command is. If it's a smaller unit and it's right down the street from where you live, and you've got a sick mom and you need that extra time, or a sick child, it's okay. Yeah. It's a long career. It's a marathon. It's a marathon, and you know what? You're never going to get some of those days back when you have to work over and above what you think you need to for the reserves. The same thing for your civilian job.
Sure.
I don't know anybody on their deathbed that said, I wish I would have spent more time in the office.
That's true, and I think that's a good place to stop. Apply 201. Really, that's that slating process, and it's completely unique to the Navy Reserve.
Absolutely.
But a process we both really believe in and are passionate about.
And there's a lot of details. We can talk more about it. In the new software program, it could almost do it by itself.
And when we get into Apply 301, I think that would be a good place to talk about the 5400 a
Yes,
little bit.
yes, absolutely.
Great, thanks, sir.
Thanks, Ted.
Appreciate your time.